So that shiny new game just came out, Black Myth Wukong, and you want to know if it's worth your time, right? Well, let's take a look at the game for some first impressions. Keep in mind this is not a full review, this is a quick look at the game. I played the game for a little over 3 hours, so I'll show some footage of the game while describing it and giving a few thoughts on it. First of all, after recording for 3 hours, I checked the current player count on Steam, and it's showing at a whopping 1.4 million. I have personally never seen a game reach that high, let alone a newly released single player game, just a couple hours after release. That's insane. This game had a benchmark tool prior to release, and I spent a lot of time on that to dial in my settings. Even though I have a 3080 Ti, I ended up using FSR with FrameGen, quality set to 75% at 1440p, and then my settings were mixed between medium and cinematic and everything between for all of my settings. My FPS was about 130, with the lower end being about 70 to 90. I don't really like FrameGen in most games as it feels awful, and in some parts of this game I had massive stuttering. However, after about 30 minutes or maybe a little bit more of game time, I didn't notice any more stuttering in the game, and everything went fairly smoothly. Okay, so onto the game now. To begin the game, there is a lengthy cinematic cutscene, as well as a little beginning boss fight. The beginning scenes and the little boss fight in the beginning took about 16 minutes before I could actually get into the game itself. I know absolutely nothing about this mythology or what it's based on, so I was a bit lost in, well, a lot of the game. The monkey guy in the beginning scenes is not who you play as in the game. That is son Wukong, and he wants to be free from the heavens, but they don't want him to be. At least, I think that's the case. He fights a smaller guy, loses, and then dies on a mountaintop. His voice was much higher pitched than I expected to. It was kind of off-putting and strange, honestly. Now there's a stone on the mountaintop that he died on, and an old monkey says it's been there since he died. Supposedly, his remains are within. He turned into 6 relics, and then they all escaped into different directions. No one knows where the relics are. They're called the 6 senses of the great sage. If you bring them all back to the mountain, he might rise again. I don't understand a lot of things in this game, like why the game begins as you sitting on the forest floor as a fruit. That confused me. I know my character is a monkey, but does he have transformation powers or something? Very odd. The combat in the game is actually pretty simple. You can dodge, jump, lock onto enemies, and you have a light and heavy attack. In addition to that, you also have 4 powers that you can equip at once, as well as a spirit that you can call on in battle. On top of that, you have a skill tree that has various improvements to your attacks and other things like health or stamina. You can also reclaim all skill points, called sparks, and reuse them as much as you want. You also have quick use slots that you can equip different medicines to, like temporarily increase your damage or temporarily increase defense and so on. You can heal yourself, but you have a limited amount of uses for that. In the 3 hours that I played, I only got to 3 powers. One power momentarily freezes an enemy, the other turns me invisible temporarily until I attack or it runs out, and the third one turned me into a different person altogether with a flaming weapon. The spirits you can call on in battle are enemies that you've defeated, but only specific enemies. I had 2 different spirits I could use after my time playing, and one of them cast poisonous snakes, and the other rammed the enemy causing damage. There's no blocking or parrying, just attack and dodge, and when enemies die, their bodies disappear. There's this strange person who's the keeper of the mountain, and he continuously talks to you and helps you out. Immediately after I saw him, I only thought of one thing: the mandrake from Harry Potter. That dude just looks weird. Then there's something called a keeper's shrine, and you can use them for various things. When you die, you'll respawn at the last shrine that you were at. Also, you can teleport to any other shrine that you've been to while at the shrine. Resting will restore all health as well as your health gourds, or flasks if you will. Resting will also respawn all non-boss enemies. Then there's the self-advance tab, but that's just your skill tree. You can open that up anywhere, so it's not really important here at the shrine. But there's various different paths that you can use your skill points to upgrade. Store is where you can buy medicines for your quick use slots, ingredients for weapon and armor crafting, as well as medicine crafting. You'll unlock weapon and armor crafting later on in the first level, and then it'll be at all shrines after that. The levels range from semi-open world to linear, but mostly on the linear side. There's a little bit of exploring. You can find chests as well as ingredients. For the most part, you're just following the paths, but there's no way markers or quest markers, and there's no map. Also, there's not even a quest that you can read so you know what to do. You just follow the paths until the story progresses. You can equip different weapons and armor in the equipment tab, and I frequently bought new armor at shrines, and I upgraded my staff only once. The default staff, that is. I also got the digital deluxe edition, which comes with an armor set and a staff. However, as far as I can tell, these cannot be upgraded, so they're more or less useless after the first level. I switched to better armor I bought while still in the first level, and eventually I upgraded the default staff, which then did more damage than the digital deluxe staff. So I no longer used a single item from the digital deluxe edition before the first level was even over, except for one item, the wind chime curio. Curios are an item that you can equip that'll do things like make you slightly faster or moderately increase your defense, for example. You can change that in the equipment tab with all of your other armor and staffs. Unless I'm able to upgrade the digital deluxe staff later on, it seems to be a waste unless you just want to collect the items. And you can't seem to upgrade any armors in the game as well. It seems like it's only the staffs that you can upgrade for now. Okay, so now let's talk about the bane of my existence in the first level, the black bear. It's the final boss before the first level ends, and you'll get one of the 6 relics after beating it. The relics will give you a permanent upgrade, and this one gives you 3 different choices to choose from. I chose the option for increased critical hit damage. Anyways, the bear itself was pretty difficult compared to all of the other enemies. The normal enemies I was breezing through. They're pretty easy. The other bosses I either beat first try or third try at most. This bear took me like 45 minutes and 8 tries before I finally brought that thing down. It has a lot of health and it's very quick. It also turns into mist that attacks you, and all you can do is dodge. Then at the end it starts using fire attacks on top of all of that. I reclaimed my spent skill points after every death at a nearby shrine, trying to get skill combinations that would help me win that fight. Also, I need to mention that while the bear is intimidating, it looks kinda silly wearing a little girly skirt. When it bends over, it even has a big furry butt, which made me chuckle every time I stabbed it. I know it's not actually a skirt, but it sure does resemble one a lot. Anyways, after you die a lot and then defeat the bear, you'll move on to chapter 2. Just like the beginning of chapter 1, where I began as a fruit, I also have no idea what's happening at the beginning of chapter 2. After you defeat the bear, there's an animated scene involving a bear and a guy, and then chapter 2 begins with a headless person singing and making music, while you're laying on the ground with arrows in your body. I was very confused about this, but so be it. Chapter 2 is a totally different location with different enemies. Instead of fighting wolf-like people primarily, it seems now the primary opponents are rats. Instead of a lush forest location, it's now a dry rocky canyon location. The graphics in this game look really good, but the game is pretty demanding. Without frame gen, unless you have a newer 40 series Nvidia GPU, you won't be getting good frame rates. With frame gen though, a lot of people can play with their GPUs, but it's still pretty demanding compared to other games. This is a type of game that makes me wonder how amazing it would look if I had a 4090 and played this in all of its glory at 4K. I noticed a few things in this game that reminded me of other games as well. I recently played the Elden Ring DLC, and fighting in this game reminds me somewhat of fighting in Elden Ring. Also, there's little meditation areas that you can find in the game, and whenever I found those, it was so similar to the meditation areas in Ghost of Tsushima. This game's only downside, if there is one, is that it's pretty demanding on your GPU, like I said. Still though, this game is actually pretty amazing to play. If you like Souls-like games, or single-player games in general and want to give this one a try, then you definitely should. If you want to buy this game, stick to the base version though, if you want to save some money, as the armor and staff is questionable to have. I think this game is very, very good, and I can't wait to play more, though that's my personal opinion. Whether or not this is your type of game, I'll see you on the next one.